Breshit. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was unformed and void. Darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God hovered over the surface of the water. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So there was evening, and there was morning one day. God said, "Let there be a dome in the middle of the water. Let it divide the water from the water." God made the dome and divided the water under the dome from the water above the dome. That's how it was. God called the dome sky. So there was evening, and there was morning a second day. God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered together into one place, and let dry land appear." That's how it was. God called the dry land earth, and gathered together the water he called seas, and God saw that it was good. God said, "Let the earth put forth grass, seed-producing plants, fruit trees, each yielding its own kind of seed-bearing fruit on the earth." That's how it was. The earth brought forth grass, plants, each yielding its own kind of seed, and trees, each producing its own kinds of seed-bearing fruit. And God saw that it was good. So there was evening, and there was morning, a third day. God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to divide the day from the night. Let them be for signs, seasons, days, and years. And let them be for lights in the dome of the sky to give light to the earth." That's how it was. God made the two great lights, the larger light to rule the day and the smaller light to rule the night, and the stars. God put them in the dome of the sky to give light to the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. God saw that it was good. So there was evening, and there was morning, a fourth day. God said, "Let the water swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth in the open dome of the sky." God created the great sea creatures and every living thing that creeps, so that the water swarmed with all kinds of them. And there was every kind of winged bird, and God saw that it was good. Then God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the water of the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." So there was evening, and there was morning, a fifth day. God said, "Let the earth bring forth each kind of living creature, each kind of livestock, crawling animal, and wild beast." That's how it was. God made each kind of wild beast, each kind of livestock, and every kind of animal that crawls along the ground. God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image, in the likeness of ourselves. Let them rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the animals all over the earth, and over every crawling creature that crawls on the earth." So God created humankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them. God said to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and every living creature that crawls on the earth." Then God said, "Here, throughout the whole earth, I am giving you as food every seed-bearing plant and every tree with seed-bearing fruit, and to every wild animal, bird in the air, and creature crawling on the earth, in which there is a living soul. I am giving as food every kind of green plant." That's how it was. God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So there was evening, and there was morning, a sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, along with everything in them. On the seventh day, God was finished with his work, which he had made. So he rested on the seventh day from all his work in which he had made. God blessed the seventh day, separated it as holy, because on that day God rested from all his work which he had created, so that itself could produce. Here is the history of the heavens and the earth when they were created. On the day when Adonai God made earth and heaven, there was not yet wild bush or There was not yet wild bush or on the earth, and no wild plant had yet sprung up, for God Adonai had not caused it to rain on the earth. And there was no one to cultivate the ground. Rather, a mist went up from the earth, which watered the entire surface of the ground. When Adonai God formed a person, Adam, from the dust of the ground, Adamah, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, so that he became a living person, Adonai God planted a garden toward the east, in Eden, and there he put a person whom he had formed out of the ground. Adonai God caused to grow every tree pleasing in appearance and good for food, including the tree of life in the middle of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. A river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it divided into 4 streams. The name of the first is Pishon. It winds throughout the land of Havilah, where there is gold. The gold in that land is good. Aromatic, raisin, and onyx stones were also found there. The name of the second river, Gishon. It winds through the land of Cush. The name of the third river is Tigris. It is one that flows towards the east of Ashur. The fourth river is Euphrates. Adonai God took the person and put him in the Garden of Eden to cultivate and care for it. Adonai God gave the person this order: you may freely eat from every tree in the garden except the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You are not to eat from it, because on the day that you eat from it, it will become certain that you will die. Adonai God said, "It isn't good that the person should be alone. I will make for him a companion suitable for helping him." So from the ground Adonai God formed every kind of wild animal and every bird that flies in the air, and he brought them to the person to see what he would call him. Whatever the person would call each living creature, that was to be the name. So the person gave names to all the livestock, to the birds of the air, to every wild animal. But for Adam, there was not found a companion suitable for helping him. Then God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the person. And while he was sleeping, he took one of the ribs out, closed up the place from which he took it with flesh. The rib which Adonai God had taken from the person, he made a woman person, and he brought her to the man person. The man person said, "At last, this is bone from my bone and flesh from my flesh. She is to be called woman, Isha, because she was taken out of man, Ish. This is why man is to leave his father and mother and stick with his wife. They are to be one flesh. They were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed." Now the serpent was more crafty than any wild animal which Adonai God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you are not to eat of the tree of the garden? Of any tree of the garden?" The woman answered the serpent, "We may eat from the fruit of the trees of the garden, but about the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden, God said, you are neither to eat from it nor touch it, or you will die." The serpent said to the woman, "It is not true that you will surely die, because God knows on the day that you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it had a pleasing appearance, and that the tree was desirable for making one wise, she took some of its fruit and ate. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized that they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together to make for themselves loincloths. They heard the voice of Adonai God walking in the garden at the time of evening breeze. So the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Adonai God among the trees in the garden. Adonai God called to the man, "Where are you?" He answered, "I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked. So I hid myself." He said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree in which I ordered you not to eat?" The man replied, "The woman you gave me to be with, she gave me the fruit the tree and I ate. Adonai God said to the woman, "What is this that you have done?" The woman answered, The serpent tricked me, so I ate." Adonai God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all the livestock and wild animals. You will crawl on your belly and eat dust as long as you live. I will put animosity between you and the woman, and between your descendants and her descendants. He will bruise your head, and you will bruise his heel." To the woman he said, "I will greatly increase your pain in childbirth. You will bring forth children in pain. Your desire will be toward your husband, but he will rule over you." To Adam he said, "Because you listened to what your wife said and ate from the tree about which I gave you the order, you are not to eat from it. The ground is cursed on your account. You will work hard to eat from it as long as you live. It will produce thorns and thistles for you. You will eat field plants. You will eat bread by the sweat of your forehead till you return to the ground. Where you are taken out, you are dust, and you will return to dust." The man called his wife Hava, Eve, life, because she was the mother of all living. Adonai God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. Adonai God said, "See, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Now to prevent his putting out of his hand and taking also from the tree of life and eating it and living forever. Therefore Adonai God sent him out of the Garden of Eden to cultivate the ground from which he was taken. So he drove out the man and placed at the east side of the Garden of Eden a keruim, a flaming sword which turned every direction to guard the way of the tree of life."